Hello everybody and welcome to probably one of my most demanded and probably one of the most demanded videos for this entire patch, to be honest, which is the Bomb Blade build. So Bomb Blade is definitely back in this patch. I have actually been using this build prior to this patch. I just never got around to releasing it because I was quite busy with other stuff and I was slacking basically. But you know I'm not slacking anymore. Video a day minimum. Would have been 2 today. There will also be a Call of Duty video. I know most of you are not worried about that. It just happened when we were waiting in maintenance, so I'll upload it on the go in case anyone wants to see that. But this video is the Bomb Blade on serious note. And what a Bomb Blade essentially is, for those of you who have never seen it, is a build that is a one-shot impact on a big boy group. And essentially, the build works better the more people are stacked. So the bigger the Zerg, the better the work. All you got to do is you've got to bait in a resource, a keep, or whatever, find a massive Zerg, get the combo right, and you will get a ton of kills. Now, realistically, you are likely to die afterwards, but it doesn't really matter because it is absolutely awesome fun to play and is a very, very good way if you are just constantly getting mosh pitted down by the big boy Zergs to clean things up. So I'll explain sort of through the sets that we're using, the actual combo and the skills, etc., CP, all of that stuff any second. Quick disclaimer, my chat is absolutely mosh pitted with emotes, so if I get distracted, my apologies. Okay, build. So we are using the following. Again, this is for this particular bomb, my opinion. So before I talk about the sets today, I'm going to quickly mention why we are using this rather than a destro bomb. So there's 2 types of bomb that you may have seen if you're more experienced. A destro bomb and a tether bomb. A destro bomb is extremely effective in a pair or a group because the damage incoming is very, very high and the amount of dots and all of that coming in with big boy ticks is very quick, so people generally die instantly still and you get a big train of kills. When you're playing solo, I personally have a bit of hate about that sort of playstyle because very, very often you're going to get out healed by mosh pit Zergs. And those are the sort of Zergs you really want to target if you're a true man. You're going for the biggest of the big, the sexiest of the sexy, and you obviously can't do that if they're just going to heal out your damage. So this is a tether bomb which is designed to insta-kill, and I'll explain again how that works in a sec. But our sets, anyway, moving on. We are using 1 Kenner, that gives us slightly more damage than a magic-based piece, so it is worth using in the case of this build since every damage counts. 1 Dommer House, there's no real other alternative, and this gives stamina as well as magicka. And when I explain the other stuff, it's nice to have that. But essentially, both monster set pieces, whatever they are, just need to be something with damage. So if you don't have Dommer House, you don't have Kenner, something with max magicka, something with spell damage, that will do fine. You don't want to go with 2 Groftar, which some people may suggest in the chat. That's crap. It's nice for a destro. It doesn't work for a melee blade. Melee blade is instant damage burst in the bomb. You need to get sets that flat increase your stats. Groftar is going to be a dot. It's not going to do anything useful for the build. So go for a 2-piece. Our other 5-piece set then, this is something that is quite variable. You have War Maiden. So there are 3 sets that you could potentially use here. You could even honestly just use the one that you want. It doesn't make a huge difference. That is War Maiden, Spell Power Cure, and Spinners. I'm going to compare them all as we go. So Spinners is going to give you the best possible damage on a group, assuming no shields. It's only very, very marginally more than War Maiden, but I think that War Maiden is nicer than Spinners because of the way it's unaffected by shields. So if you don't know, when a shield is up, your resistance is unaffected by damage. Your damage is unaffected by resistance. That's what I meant. So Spinners is actually not getting the extra 5-piece bonus when you're hitting shields. For example, you've got the mosh pit and a DK cast Igneous. Everyone gets like a 1k damage shield, 500 damage shield. Lo and behold, your 5-piece, off it goes. It's gone. It's history. So you waste your 5-piece a bit too often. I really like War Maiden. I found it a bit more consistent overall. Like I said, Spinners is marginally more damage, but I did prefer War Maiden. Now, the other set worth mentioning is Spell Power Cure. And this is more interesting if you're going to play a sort of tether bomb in a group. Or you are going to play a tether bomb and are very, very knowledgeable about uptime of buffs. I can do that. I just preferred War Maiden, but especially for groups, Spell Power Cure is a really good option because it gives quite similar damage, actually slightly more overall than Spinner and War Maiden, when you are using heals. I won't link the set. I mean, you're only really going to consider Spell Power Cure if you know what the set is anyway. Realistically, if you don't know much about the set, you're going to stick with War Maiden or Spinner. But yeah, if you are going to run in a group, I promise one of you should run Spinners, run Spell Power Cure. It does make a nice difference, and you're going to buff that with one of the skills I'll show in a sec. Our other 5-piece set then is going to be Vicious Death. You're going to want 2 rings, a necklace, and Sword of Vicious Death, Nirnhone, and Sword of Vicious Death Sharpen. I'll go over all the traits in a sec and all the glyphs and that stuff. But yeah, your Vicious Death is going to be front barred only because that's the only place it's needed. So you're going to go with Jeweled and free jewellery. You could also run War Maiden jewellery or Spinner, whichever you go for, and put the Vicious Death on the armour. The only thing that needs to happen is that you run Vicious Death weapons, because that's the one that you really want to be on 1 bar only. It's not the end of the world if Vicious Death isn't 1 bar only and you go for War Maiden or Spinner on the Jeweled, if that saves you some money and you're quite poor. But it is slightly more effective to go this way, just because it slightly helps you back bar if you get caught in a fight that you don't really want. Our back bar then is actually a sustain piece, because we're not losing anything by running a 4-piece or a 3-piece on the back bar, since we're just losing the crit and our back bar is not really damage focused. So our back bar is actually the Maelstrom Restoration Staff, which is a nice twist that I've given to this build, because this is worth in principle roughly about 300 magicka regen. That can vary by anywhere between 50 and 100 depending on the build and the scenario. It can be really high, it can be crap if you've got bad luck, but it is regen profitable and it's quite nice to have. And it does mean that if you get caught 1v1, you're not instantly dead. You actually have some sort of fight back available to you. And I found it very useful. I do notice the change, so I really suggest getting that. If you don't have that available, it's not the end of the world. So you could run a Master Staff, or you could just run some random resto. Preferably, I guess if you haven't got Maelstrom, you're better off running a Vicious Death or a War Maiden, depending on what you have in your swords. So that you keep the 4-piece, but it's not a big difference in that terms. Maelstrom Resto is a big difference. It's very, very beneficial to the build. I love it a lot. What else have we got to discuss?
Darling, you're so generous.
Damn it. I forgot to turn it off. I forgot to turn the alerts off. Bugger. Nobody else do anything like that, please, guys, please. I will always forget. The rest of the build then, we're running infused on our big pieces. We have the helmet, the chest, and the legs, and divines on the small. Again, this is not that important because divines and infused are very, very similar damage. It is again slightly more meritable to run infused on your big boy pieces because they are going to give you increased shield size for almost identical damage. I did slightly prefer that to running all divines, and I have tested again a lot about this in the previous patch especially, but everything's the same in this patch because no real sets actually affect this. You don't want to run Impen. This is in the end of bomb, so you're going for full damage, and you're going to get your crit resistant a bit from the CP. Obviously, all glyphs are magicka, and on our jewelry, all glyphs are spell damage. Our weapon glyphs then are actually quite important, at least the resto one is. So you've got an infused Maelstrom Restoration Staff, and that is going to have a Magicka Steel glyph. If you don't know how to make that, it is Rapora. No, it's not Rapora. I've already fucked it up. It's Atade, Mako, and Kuta. Probably pronounced horrendously, but that is the glyphs you're going to use because that is giving you roughly, again, about 300 regen. So again, it's going to help you sustain if you do get caught in a fight. And I have had experience with that on stream. It really, you can fight properly back to a point. Obviously, it's not perfect, but you can. Your jeweled, then you're going to want your main hand to be weapon damage. So how your bomb is going to work is you're going to get your ulti and a proxy, which I'll show you in a sec, off at the same second. And then you're just going to light and sap spam and pray to God the last few guys die and you get a train of Vicious Death Explosion, which I'll explain in a sec. Yeah, you want that weapon damage just to help when you're doing the sap spam. It doesn't proc very often apart from that, but it does make a small difference. And then your backhand, this is very, very rare that it's ever going to proc, but you want to use a stamina steel glyph. The only reason that is the glyph to go for here is because the only way that's ever going to proc in a scenario is if you're going to heavy attack. And if you're going to heavy attack, your sole reason for doing that is your stamina is in dire straits and maybe a 1v1 you don't want. And so you're going to get a stamina proc to restore your resources. I actually realised something I didn't explain here, which was the Vicious Death, how that set actually works, because some people may not honestly know that. So Vicious Death is when you kill a player, they violently explode for a lot of flame damage to enemies. So if they're closely packed targets and they die, you get this big impact across them, and it comes in a huge chain reaction, because you've already put massive AoE damage down, and that AoE damage is going to cause this chain reaction of Vicious Deaths, and that's how you're able to get an absolute ton of kills in one cast. War Maiden, again, is just a 5-piece giving you damage, so that's why I explained that one a little less. Okay, so skills, this should be a little bit faster. I did want to explain the build in some detail for people. We are running with, and keep these on the same bar, especially your front bar. The back bar, there is one spot you could variate. On the front bar, we're running with Merciless Resolve. This is going to be a buff to increase our damage. So it gives you 8% extra damage, happy days. And it's also going to help us if we get caught in a 1v1, but not that important. It's really there for the buff, the 8% damage on the nuke. You want that front bar, it's assassin based. It's going to give you extra crit. That's from your assassin passives, but I won't show you all of the details on that. Concealed Weapon is our second one. This is actually there occasionally to be cast if we get in a single target fight, but mostly it's there for the movement speed while stealthed. So we are trying to keep our stealth speed high so that when we're pushing in for the bomb, we have a high pace action and we can actually hit them with some speed. Next is going to be Mage Light. That is going to give us extra magicka and it's going to give us front bar crit. So obviously we're going to run that. That's extra damage. More damage, happy days. And then we're running with Cloak on the front bar because it feels a lot smoother to play. You could technically put an assassin skill here and put a Cloak on the back bar, but I'm just telling you right now it's going to be clunky as hell when you go for the kill. So I promise you put Cloak on the front bar. It's horrendous otherwise. Last but not least is going to be Sap. This is going to be your AoE spam. When you go for the bomb, you're going to have your ulti, which is going to be Tether. I'll explain that in a sec. You're going to have proxy. Again, I'll explain in a sec. And then you're just going to spam Sap because you want that big AoE damage. You need it to stay alive remotely. And that's what you're going to hope to get some kills to get that vicious death off. Tether is our ulti. So I did explain about destro versus Tether bombing. We're going with Tether for this. As I mentioned before, if you did not listen to that, that's your own fault. Tether is going to give us a big AoE explosion. It's going to stun everyone in that AoE. Really powerful, that stun, because it opens up the proxy in the same game tick. And by getting proxy and Tether in the same game tick, you're doing like 30k damage if you get a good proxy, or 40k damage even if you've got a big boy group in a millisecond, and people will die quickly, and then you'll get that vicious death chain reaction. So that is our ultimate of choice. On the back bar then, we are obviously running Mutagen, so this is a must-have for this particular Bombblade build if you are running the Maelstrom Resto. If you're not, you could take that off. But this, again, is to help you if you get caught in a 1v1 scenario. Other skills you could run here if you're going to drop Maelstrom Resto are Lotus Fan for a gap closer. I don't personally like it. Or you could run with Image for kiteability. Personally, I think if you're going to replace a skill, you're better off replacing this one here, which is Siphoning Attacks. Again, that's there for extra sustain. But again, I don't really like that. A quick disclaimer though, if you choose to replace Siphoning Attacks, you want to change your ulti to Tether on this back bar. I'll show you this one in a sec. You're going to need Tether to actually give you the Siphoning passives, otherwise you're going to lose Magicka on the back bar. Next, two obvious ones, Healing Ward and Harness Magicka. Heal, Shield, whatever you want to call them, they're must-haves. You need them to survive. And finally, we have Proxy Detonation. That's the big boy of this build. So how this works, you cast it, like so. It brews up for about 8 seconds, and then eventually it goes off. And when it goes off, you get 7k damage. But that goes higher and higher and higher, up to 250% more damage if you get 10 targets stacked up as your max. If you do get more than 10 targets, it will still cap at 250%, but realistically, more enemies is more chance of getting a vicious death explosion, and it's more chance of getting a bigger bomb. So it's definitely good to aim for bigger groups for this. Don't try and pick off sort of 3-4 mans, though it is possible to do so. Our ultimate then is a Barrier. Doesn't matter which morph you take. Mine's not even morphed. It's literally just there for passive regen. Again, we're just trying to help that sustain a little bit on the back bar. There's nothing you're going to use. You could put Resto on the back bar. I'm sure some people would like to use that. I think it's a bit of a waste because, again, similar to my Sork build, if you haven't seen Shocket Launcher, check that one out. It's a bit of a pain in the ass because when you actually cast that, you obviously don't have an ult available for your Tether, and you're going to have to farm a whole ult again to go for the bomb because this is an ult-orientated bomb. Ult-orientated, something like that. If you have wasted your ult just trying to survive and escape, it's a bit pointless. Honestly, I just accept your death. It's truly going to be better off for you. It's more frustrating to farm an ult. So yeah, that is the skills. I think I've explained that in quite some detail. Now we're going to explain the combo itself before we go on to things like CP. So if you don't know how it works, what we're going to do is we are going to start in Stealth, or we're going to start in Cloak. Either is fine. Doesn't make a jot of difference. It all depends on your stamina and Magicka pool at that point. And we're obviously going to start with an ulti up. I obviously don't have an ulti right now, but that's fine. I'm just going to call out when I would ult so you guys can hear it, but essentially you've got the idea. When we're in stealth, we're going to cast Merciless. Say this tree is a big boy Zerg. Let's imagine there's like 50 people stacked on that, and that's a resource flag. So resource flags keeps that sort of place. It's a great place to use this. Bridge, breaches, all of those places where you've got big boy stacks. You're going to cast Merciless from stealth. You are then, my food's down, going to cast Cloak. And then you're going to cast Proxy, and then you're going to cast Cloak. The reason you want to cast that Cloak again is stealth can be pretty buggy. I like to make sure it's up. Now that Proxy brews up over time. I'll do this smoothly in a sec so you can actually hear it. But during that time we would have moved to our target. And then all we're going to do is empower with Mage Light by casting that. And then cast the ult at the split second your bomb is going to explode. And then you're going to spam Tether. So to give you a proper demonstration of that, we're going to cast Merciless, Proxy. I fucked up. Nobody saw that. Proxy, Cloak, Cloak. We're now inside the bomb that's nice and stationary. When we think it's going to go, you're then going to go Mage Light and Ult. And those two are going to hit at the same time. After practice, you will get those hitting at the same time. And that is where you're going to get that massive AoE damage. And you're going to get a lot of kills. So, the rest of the build to explain, we do have our potions. These are going to be Essence of Detection, Stealth Detection, Major Sorcery, and Magicka. There's no point in using Spell Power Pots because you've already got the crit from your Mage Light. So this is a better option. It gives you that crit, that detection on Nightblades. Doesn't matter that much very often, but it makes a nice difference. Food-wise, we are using Clockwork Citrus Fillet if you are feeling wealthy. That gives you health, health recovery, Magicka, and Magicka recovery. Slightly weaker is this one here, Witch Mother, which gives you a bit less Magicka. No health recovery, but the rest is the same. It doesn't make that much of a difference. You're still going to get kills if you get a big enough group. It's just slightly less stats, and I have the money to do so. Not on this character. This one's poor as hell. So yeah, you want to go with those two foods. It's just to help that sustain, because as you can see on our stat sheet, we're sitting on a reasonable amount of regen, 1.4k. It's obviously not perfect, because we are a Bomb Blade, but we do have a bit of recovery to play with. Our Magicka is 45k, give or take. That's going to be a bit lower again with Witch Mother. Health is 22k. That's fine. If you die, you die. Again, this is an aim to one-shot or die. And our stamina is sitting on 11.5. Quite low stamina regen, and this is the sort of place where you can get picked apart a bit. But I still think it's worth going for the Clockwork Food because it really does help sort of cloaking and moving around, and if you get caught in a 1v1. So I think that's the way to go. Spell damage unbuffed is sitting on 2.99k, so basically 3k. We can buff that, but keep in mind we also have War Maiden on top. So realistically, your spell damage is anywhere between about 4 and 4.5k with a crit chance of 52%. So very, very high damage from those stats. Our crit resist is only coming from our CP. Not that important. Again, it is a bomb, so it doesn't make a huge difference. Have I missed anything on there? Yes, I have. We are a Vamp. Vamp gives us that extra recovery, which helps a little bit. But more importantly, it gives us movement speed and stealth, which is going to help you get in for the bomb. And we are using the Apprentice Mundus for that extra spell damage. Mage is not that much less damage, but again, we're going for max damage. Apprentice is the better of the two, so go Apprentice. None of that really matters. We are a High Elf. Dark Elf is also a brilliant race for this. Breton is not terrible, but not optimized. You don't really want to be an Argonian for Bomber, but I suppose you can. I like High Elf a lot because, again, it's giving us a bit more sustain with that damage. I think that Dark Elf probably gives you slightly more overall damage. But yeah, I personally would go High Elf as my preference. Dark Elf second and Breton third for races. I think I've covered that. Chat, if I missed anything, let me know. But we're going to move on to the CP. So CP, Green Tree, doesn't matter tremendously. We have 56 in Warlord to help manage our stamina. 76 in Arcanist. There's not really many important trees here, so we're amping that up to the highest stack you can go. No point going to 15%, it rounds down. 32 in Tenacity, that's for our heavy attacks. So if you are low on resources, if you're trying to build up an ulti, you're generally going to resto start heavy attack. This is going to give us a good amount of resources back, so why not add some onto it? And then finally, we actually have some points in Shade. Probably a build you are unlikely to see. Sorry, you're probably unlikely to see that in any other build. 12% extra sneak cost. Honestly, you will feel that when you are playing this build a lot. It can be very frustrating trying to move around Zergs, waiting for the perfect time. It is a patience game waiting for that stack. And if you're balancing Cloak and Sneak, it can be quite nice to have those points. It does add up. So I like it. 20 in Shadow Ward. That's just in case when you go for a bomb, you have a stack that's near dead and you can keep sapping a bit. You can block, and that way you've got a bit of less cost on that. Again, it's not going to make a huge difference. And 37 in tumbling, that is to get out afterwards. If you do manage to get quite a few kills, move out of it and cast cloak. Or if you're doing this in IC for Telvar, then again, you can move out with the roll dodge and try get cloak. We're just trying to cheapen that up to give you the best chance of survival. Customize the green as you like, doesn't make that much difference overall. Red Tree, 23 into Bastion. That's going to help our shield size if we get caught off guard. 40 in Thick Skinned for damage over time. 37 Hardy, 32 Elemental Defender. 56 in Resistance, 52 Ironclad. Really, it doesn't matter very much. Customize that based on how you've done your other characters. Look through that slowly if you want. The only thing that's important is to have a fair few in Resistant, because you don't have crit resist coming from anywhere else. And up until at least about 45 points, 50 points, it scales pretty good. So stick some points in there. The Brute Tree is where it does matter, because this is not a destro bomb, and I have tested this. Thaumaturge, despite popular belief, does not buff your proxy. I have tested this on the tooltip. It did not go higher by putting points in Thaumaturge. Screw Thaumaturge. It would help your sap slightly. It doesn't help your tether. It doesn't help your proxy. Those are your most important skills. So we are focusing on those. So we are stacking into Master at Arms, 73 for 23% there. 73 into Elfborn for the extra crit damage. And the extra healing does also make a difference on the sap. 64 into Elemental Expert. Any more doesn't scale very well, so we're amping these up to their max scaling threshold. And then dump every other point you've got into Spell Erosion. For lower CP players, since I like to help you guys out a bit if you want to try this on lower CP, because this would work on lower CP, what you want to do is run Elemental Expert at somewhere between about 49 and 43, I think, are the next scaling points. Elfborn will cap at 56 or 52 if you have to reduce it. Same as Master at Arms, 56, 52. And then, again, just remove points from Erosion as needed. Try to keep some of them in there. I wouldn't go under 10. Just customize it as you need. Take all of the trees down evenly, though, because they're all pretty important and they all do help the damage. What else have I missed? One more thing. I haven't done this myself. There is a passive if you are a larger account in Legendarium, which can help your sneak. So this one here is actually very, very powerful. Actually, I have a point. Happy days. Must have stolen something. You can actually stack a lot of sneak cost reduction in that CP. In that skill tree. And it's really helpful for bombing, actually. So if you do have points there, bung it in. It helps a lot. But apart from that, I think I have covered everything. Questions I sometimes get asked, do I need Mage Light? Yes, you need Mage Light. It's a waste not to run it. I think you really need to level up Mage Guild. I know it's frustrating, but it does help, and that Empower is a lot of extra damage. Can I change the skills? Obviously. If you want to run a different skill, do so. It's up to you. I think these skills are min-max. The only one that might be nice sometimes is Lotus Fan, and I would take Siphoning Attacks off if you do prefer that. It's not for me, but each to their own. And Rest Not on the back bar if you need. I think I've covered everything, guys. So, I wish you the best of luck. I will make some clips with this to help people understand how the build plays if you've never seen a Bomb Blade actually played. And it's also a great way to see it in action. It is a very cool playstyle indeed. Super high damage. Very, very nice for killing those Zergs. So, enjoy the build. I hope it works out for you. Customize as you like, obviously. If you've enjoyed the build, you want to see some more, hit the subscribe button. Like the video where possible, because this is a good chance for the channel to grow. Bomb Blades are very popular, so drop a like if you can. Happy days, but it's up to you, of course. If you think it's crap, dislike it. Please don't dislike it, but it's up to you. Most importantly, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Enjoy.